Let me ask you something, and I want you to answer this honestly, just to yourself. How long have you been learning trading? 6 months? A year? 2 years? Maybe more? Because here's the uncomfortable truth most people never say out loud. Most traders don't fail because they don't learn enough. They fail because they never stop learning. Every week, there's a new video, a new setup, a new indicator, a new game-changing strategy. And it feels productive. It feels responsible. It feels like progress. But it's not. It's comfort. See, learning is safe. When you're learning, you're not being judged. There's no real pressure, no real accountability. You're just getting ready. And the problem is, most traders stay in that getting ready phase forever. They tell themselves, I just need one more strategy, one more confirmation, one more course. But years pass, and they're still beginners. Same mistakes, same emotional reactions, same inconsistency, different year, same results. And in 2026, this gap is only getting wider. Because the traders who are winning right now, they're not smarter than you. They don't know more than you. They just made one difficult decision you haven't made yet. They stopped trying to learn everything and started trying to master one thing. In this audiobook, we're going to talk about why most traders never escape the beginner phase, why learning becomes a psychological trap, and what actually separates a beginner from a professional in today's market. This isn't motivation, this isn't hype, this is reality. So if you're ready to be honest with yourself, let's continue. Let's get something clear right away. The beginner phase isn't about how much you know, it's about how you behave when you trade. Because most people imagine a beginner as someone new, someone who just opened their first account. That's not true. Some beginners have been in the market for 5 years, some for 10. They know the terms. They understand support and resistance. They can talk about risk-reward. They've watched all the videos. But when the trade is live, they react like it's their first day. That's the beginner phase. The beginner phase is when your emotions decide your actions. You hesitate on good setups. You chase bad ones. You move your stop. You exit early. You hold losers longer than you should. Not because you don't know better, but because knowing and doing are not the same thing. A beginner is someone who keeps changing systems instead of fixing behavior. One loss, and the strategy is broken. One win, and confidence explodes. 2 wins, and rules disappear. And slowly, without realizing it, trading becomes emotional gambling dressed up as analysis. Here's the most dangerous part. The beginner phase feels busy. You're always working, always studying, always tweaking, so it feels like progress. But real progress in trading is boring, quiet, repetitive, and boredom is something beginners can't tolerate. They confuse excitement with opportunity. They confuse activity with growth. Professionals don't. Professionals understand this one truth. Consistency is not built by doing more. It's built by doing less, better, and repeatedly. If you recognize yourself here, this isn't a judgment, it's awareness. Because you can't exit a phase, you don't admit you're stuck in. In the next part, we're going to expose the biggest lie traders are taught. The lie that keeps them beginners year after year. There's a sentence almost every trader believes, without ever questioning it. And that sentence is, if I learn more, I'll earn more. It sounds logical. It sounds responsible. It sounds smart. But in trading, this belief quietly destroys progress, because learning more does not fix execution problems. It only hides them. Every time a trader struggles, they don't look at their discipline. They look for new information. A new strategy feels like hope. A new indicator feels like control. A new mentor feels like a reset. But none of those things fix the real issue. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. You don't need more knowledge. You need fewer decisions. Beginners think complexity equals edge. Professionals know simplicity equals consistency. A beginner asks, what else can I add? A professional asks, what can I remove? And this is where ego gets involved. because admitting you already know enough means accepting that the problem might be you, your patience, your impulses, your inability to sit still, your need to be right. Learning gives you an escape from that responsibility. When you're learning, failure isn't personal. You can always say, "I'm still figuring things out." But mastery doesn't give you that excuse. Mastery exposes everything: your discipline, your emotional control, your ability to repeat the same boring process without chasing excitement. That's why most traders never choose mastery. Not because it's hard, but because it's uncomfortable. Learning protects your ego. Mastery tests your character. In the next part, we're going to talk about why learning feels so safe and why your brain actually prefers staying a beginner. Not because it makes you profitable, but because it protects you. When you're learning, your brain gets a reward without risk. You feel productive. You feel responsible. You feel like you're moving forward, but nothing is on the line. No execution, no real consequences, no exposure, and your brain loves that. Because the human brain is wired to avoid discomfort, not to chase growth. Trading mastery demands discomfort. It demands showing up every day and executing the same plan, even when it feels boring, even when the last trade was a loss, even when your emotions are screaming to interfere. Learning doesn't demand that. Learning lets you stay in control. Mastery forces you to let go. And here's something most traders never realize. The market doesn't reward intelligence. It rewards emotional stability. You can know everything about price action and still fail because you can't handle uncertainty. A beginner avoids uncertainty by learning more. A professional accepts uncertainty and manages risk instead. That's the shift. When you stay in learning mode, you avoid being fully responsible for outcomes. Because deep down, as long as you're still learning, failure doesn't feel final. But mastery removes that safety net. Every mistake becomes yours. Every result becomes yours. And that's terrifying. So most traders unconsciously choose safety over growth, comfort over consistency, learning over execution. Not because they're weak, but because they're human. In the next part, we're going to talk about what must change in 2026 if you actually want to leave the beginner phase behind. If you want 2026 to be different, then something uncomfortable has to change. Not your market, not your broker, not the strategy, your relationship with trading. In 2026, the traders who survive and grow won't be the ones who know the most. They'll be the ones who behave the most consistently. Because the edge is no longer information, everyone has access to that. The edge is self-control. A professional trader in 2026 does a few simple things, but does them relentlessly. They trade fewer setups. They follow fixed rules. They size positions the same way every time. They accept losses without negotiation. They don't look for excitement. They look for repeatability. Beginners want to feel confident before they execute. Professionals execute first and let confidence come later. That's a massive shift because confidence is not a prerequisite for action. It's a byproduct of discipline. And here's the hardest part. In 2026, growth will feel slower than ever. No big emotional highs, no dramatic revenge trades, no one trade changed everything stories, just process, just execution, just quiet improvement. And most people will quit right there because there's nothing to post, nothing to brag about, nothing to chase. But that's exactly why it works. The beginner phase ends the moment you stop trying to feel good while trading and start trying to behave well instead. In the final part, we're going to close this with a reality check and a question only you can answer. Let's end this with honesty. You're not a beginner because you're not smart enough. You're not a beginner because you lack resources. You're not a beginner because the market is unfair. You're a beginner because being a beginner is comfortable. It allows mistakes without accountability. It allows hope without discipline. It allows effort without responsibility. And as long as you stay there, nothing really changes. The market doesn't ask for your motivation. It doesn't care how badly you want it. It only responds to consistent behavior. At some point, every trader faces a quiet moment of truth, a moment where they realize, I already know enough. I just haven't been executing it. That moment is uncomfortable, because now there's no one else to blame. And that's where most people turn back. They open another video, buy another course, reset the cycle, but a few don't. A few sit with that discomfort. They simplify. They slow down. They commit to mastery instead of motion. And those traders don't look impressive in the beginning. They look boring, predictable, unemotional. But months later, they're still here, consistent, calm, in control. So, as you step into 2026, ask yourself one honest question. Are you trying to feel like a trader, or are you finally ready to behave like one? Because the day you choose behavior over comfort is the day the beginner phase ends.